Welcome back, everybody, for 2026 Collegiate Rocket League. Here's another episode of the Collegiate Exclusive Podcast. Officially, I think the first episode of Season 2 is what we're going to dub it, because we started almost a year ago now. I think it was last March, sometime around that area. TJ, we are almost a year into Collegiate Exclusive, now spanning across our second calendar year. How you doing, man? How you feeling?
Well, it's good to be back, but it's also good to be back in a virtual room with my counterpart as well. It's a pleasure to be back doing the podcast. There's so much to talk about at all times, not to mention everything we've had to talk about over the year that this podcast has existed, and we're very excited to continue on this spring.
Yeah, and I mean, we have a lot to talk about, so I guess we'll keep it short. But like, it's been over a month since we did the last episode talking about PCL, which is the last official CRL event. I mean, what did you get up to? Did you have a restful holiday season?
I mean, I think we both did a whole lot of nothing over the holiday season, that's for sure. I mean, everybody who watched the show knows how much work that both you and I have tried to put into the living aspect that is Collegiate Rocket League. So, no, we definitely, I think both of us took a very large step back, and I enjoyed it. There's been a lot of other changes. I'm sure, as you guys will notice, I am not in a setup you have seen before. No comment on that for now. We're here is all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, you were saying, what, your fourth different setup, not including our LAN episodes. So, I mean, for almost half of our Collegiate Exclusive Podcast episodes, you've been at a different setup, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's 3 separate temporary living situations and 1 at my actual house. So at the end of the day, I'm at a new place. That's all that matters. So internet hopefully is good. Mic quality seems to be good. Let's have a show.
Let's do it. Let's start off with some housekeeping things, because I want to make sure that everyone knows, once we get into this next full season of the podcast, that we do have a Twitter, and I advertised this a lot before the break. I'm going to pull it up real fast. It's going to take me a second, but here we go. Collegiate Exclusive Podcast is on Twitter at COL Exclusive Pod. So definitely go give it a follow if you feel like it. There's our smiling faces. Just posted the live tweet. And I've been posting about the show matches that are happening later tonight, talking about C3, all the rosters as well that have changed, which is our first official topic, TJ, because we've had almost over half of the top 30, and there is no official top 30 right now, because we haven't done a rankings list in quite some time, but we've had actually a roster mania between the fall and spring semester, which I don't think we were expecting.
I mean, and we were talking about it right before we went live, too. I think the number that you used was about 15 out of the top 30 made big roster changes. And then even to go a step further, when I was looking at the teams, only 2 of those were due to graduation. So make all the arguments you will about college athletics and the transfer portal, and none of that exists for esports, but it feels like it with the way that some of these moves have been rolling in. Some big names as well.
And I do have, as per the norm, a full spreadsheet of information about the most notable roster moves, and we are going to pull that up here in a second, because it's extensive. So let me make sure that my cropping job is proper, as that's not changed. We have mostly the same graphics and run of show that we had last semester with Collegiate Exclusive. But so all of you that were hoping that we would stay the same, you're in luck, because not much changed over the breaks. As TJ was saying, like, we didn't do a whole lot. It was a nice well-earned break. But here we go. This is what I've kind of put together, and there are more names underneath Syracuse there at the bottom, but I tried to sort them roughly by kind of ranking in the space, but it does go down how many rosters that I put. 50 of them. So we've got the kind of top 50-ish. Maybe missing some names that pop up during the semester, but I mean, look at all that yellow from all the roster change. And TJ, you said there were only like 3 due to graduation. There weren't that many actually due to just graduation. 2.
Yes, and the only 2 that you can talk about is Landon and East Tennessee State. Congratulations to him. And then it would be, wait, give me a second. It would be Tool from West Virginia. who I believe is graduating this semester or graduated last semester. Regardless, those are the only two. As for everybody else, there is 4 separate teams who are in their own school systems, like Akron Blue and Gold, St. Clair Green and Gold, who have just flipped players around.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you want to start? I think starting with Akron is probably the best.
Yeah, let's start with those because it was 3 schools, actually. It's funny because we talk about Akron, Ball State, and St. Clair as having the best B teams in Collegiate Rocket League. And I think we're seeing that kind of become a tangible fact now, that the A teams have now swapped players in 2 instances there of the 3 with B team players. So let's start with Akron because Patty and Milio have traded places. And Akron's done a ton of mix-up rosters at different LANs for different online events where Milio would fill in. Sometimes Jonathan would fill in. Sometimes it'd be Patty and Bullseye and Jonathan, or whatever the combination might be. We've seen them do this before, but now it's official. Milio has been bumped up to the A team here with 5 up in Bullseye, and Akron Gold get Patty alongside Jonathan and Oxy. And honestly, I think this could be an upgrade for both rosters.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the way that these teams synergize. I think you can make an argument that for Akron Blue, 5 up brings RLCS composure and talent, and Bullseye and Patty were not that far behind, but Bullseye also plays an extremely consistent role, whereas I think Patty had huge ups and huge downs that seem to follow LANs and really not much of anything else. So I think Milio brings both online and offline presence and also brings a little bit more mechanics than what Patty was able to do consistently, versus on the Akron Gold side, I think you just took one of the biggest wild card groups of 3 and you made them even more of a wild card group, adding Patty to that roster. I truly don't know what to expect, even from a play style perspective, because those are all 3 players who have done incredible things on and off LAN, both, I would say, in controlling the midfield and pushing it past that. I think Jan's probably going to take a very hard 3rd man role in this roster, but when it comes to how Oxy and Patty look, I don't even know where to start. So I don't disagree that they're both upgrades, but we won't know yet until we see them play their respective talent, like Akron going against the top 8, like Akron Gold going against the top 16.
And I mean, Akron Gold went from having 2 great, like, over expectations runs at 2 different LANs to now getting one of the best CRL LAN players in history in Patty. And so I'm so excited about this change, and I can't wait to see what it turns these teams into. And Akron Gold will be playing in Tuesday Night Lights tonight, actually. So definitely make sure you stay tuned after the podcast ends for some show matches showing off some of these rosters. But let's talk Ball State and St. Clair as well, because Ball State swapped Phoebes and Wova from the A team and B team there. And so Wova will be playing with Ultor and Yags, and on the A team we got Phoebes, Oath, and Guh. So I don't know what to make of these teams. I don't know much about Phoebes playing with the A team other than BK telling me that on LAN they've already gotten some reps with him playing alongside Oath and Guh, and so they are obviously already semi-comfortable with this change.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of insight to both kind of players as well. First off, I think it's no surprise that Wova was the one who had to step off of the Ball State roster. He's always been the player who had to kind of fight from the bottom, and Wova did unironically become a really great addition and really great role player on that team. But what I think is funnier is that his spot was up for tryout last semester before the fall even started. And if I had to put money on it, it was going to be Variety who was going to take his spot. But Variety is now gone. I believe he did graduate because he's definitely a starting caliber player on both rosters, so he must have graduated. But on the other side of that, Phoebes was easily the next man up for that Ball State roster outside of Variety. Phoebes is the youngest member of any 6 of those players. He is incredible. He's been playing in high-level tournaments since he was a junior or a sophomore in high school. I played with him on and off his senior year. He's incredible, and he's also a lot of fun to be around. He's a really good addition to the locker room, but also he's got a lot of talent, and I really do think if anybody in the Ball State program could mimic Oath and Guh's excellence, especially especially on offense, I think Phoebes is the perfect pick for it. So I actually really like how this roster could look, but Phoebes also has a very long way to go between how he's proved himself against the rest of the nation versus how is he going to prove himself against the top 4, the top 6, the top 8.
And TJ, I don't know if you've been keeping up with Twitch chat, which is very active right now, so I don't blame you. But on my stream, I think Gad just said that Cumberland will be playing without Nex, and Hotshot will be in the A-team roster. And it seems like fairly credible. He's saying it is an affirmative change. So that might be another change that we have to talk about and get some official confirmation on. This is just Twitch chat information, but if Gad's saying it, it's probably got some credence to it. So I suppose we can toss that in there as well.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I was not watching your chat, but now I am. So here's what I will add to that. I will say a few things if that is the truth. One, if Nex was the one to go, I do see that coming. Again, similar to a Ball State issue, Nex was the next player kind of trying to learn behind Naya and Polar. I'm not surprised to see him potentially get moved off, but what I will also say, and I'm sure Hotshot's probably somewhere in chat, so I will say this, and I'm not trying to be mean. I don't know if anybody on the Cumberland Academy roster can fill what Nex was able to do, even if you want to make the argument that Nex was the worst player on that roster. I don't know if any one of those 3 can fill his role, but I am excited to see. And also Ty, who's very close with Hotshot and them, seems to be confirming the story as well. So I guess as far as we're concerned, I guess Nex is just gone. I guess. I mean, I don't know if he's even playing. If someone can help us with that, that'd be great. But this is also why we do the podcast, right?
Yep.
To learn and to get the community feedback. So I guess ni hao to Nex.
Well, that bumps us up over half of the top-ish 30 making changes. So yeah, I guess Cumberland making a move as well. So I'll go ahead and live update this spreadsheet. So there you go. Hotshot is in. We'll bold and underline his name. But okay, another roster change to add to the discussion. We'll keep going, I think, alphabetically-ish right now, so we want to jump around. But this was, I think, the highest ticket transfer outside of Arju to Maryville. Zanil has gone from Northwood to Baylor to fill the massive shoes of Collegiate Exclusive Player of the Week, 2-time Player of the Week, JT. And TJ, does this bump up Baylor into national championship contender status for you?
Oh, well, I'm going to save a lot of my thoughts until we get to our power rankings because I'm sure people will argue me on that. But I will say this is without a doubt, and there's going to be some argument as well. I do believe this is without a doubt the biggest, and even at the worst case scenario, it's the second biggest move in all of CRL. And then I would even argue that it's going to be... I'm trying to think about the best way to put this without revealing where I have them in the rankings. It makes Baylor a contender without even showing up to play yet. And then in terms of where they rank, we'll get to that later. But on the also kind of similar level in terms of addition, I think I'm also going to bring up Maryville while we're on the topic. We already knew this was coming for a very long time. We've heard about this roster move for probably a whole year. They were just waiting to make it happen. Arju is now joining Speed and Relating Wave after Ixo and his pro career kind of completely took off. Now they get Arju to come in. And that right there is unironically a top 5, top 6 team in North America who is now going to be in CRL. So they're going to be dangerous, but they're also not my number 1 team in my power rankings. So we'll get to that conversation when we get there.
All right, and Fisher has also made a change, which honestly I should have 2 names bolded and underlined here because technically Justice was at Fisher already, but really didn't play anything outside of the DreamHack Atlanta Collegiate Invitational with Fisher last semester. But they have added Ivan, who is a European pro that's played some in SSA as well, alongside Royalis, who we saw kind of lift last semester's iteration of this roster up by the bootstraps into the closed qualifier and have a pretty decent run through CRL trying to make top 8. And so now that he's gotten these full European upgrades alongside him, I think this is massive for Fisher and jumping back into the conversation of one of the top teams in CRL.
Absolutely. And Ivan's got a fairly decent track record when it comes to his performances, both in Sub-Saharan Africa and EU. He won a lot of events and made a lot of grand finals in Sub-Saharan Africa, but even in the EU side of things, like whenever he most recently played in the Last Chance qualifier, finished top 28 for that. Also in a few cash cups here and there with top 20s, top 24s. Even when he was consistently playing in Europe, finished 7th in the Shift Summer League, which I know sounds ancient now because of how long it's been. But my point is that he is an RLCS level talent, and there maybe is, I think in my rankings, there might be a slight overreaction to that move, but I do think that with both Justice and Ivan coming back, it completely revitalizes this Fisher roster, and now we get to see Royales completely unleashed. I think a lot of teams are going to sleep on Fisher.
Yeah, I mean, Royales and Justice as a pair just made top 16 NARLCS, and that was with Beastie as a third, which, I mean, Ivan, I think, is fairly comparable to Beastie when you're talking about individual skill, and so I think Fisher is going to be close to that sort of level, at that sort of top 16 RLCS level, which we've got several teams that are in that conversation. I mean, Maryville and Baylor both are basically playing RLCS with their school teammates, just not under the school banner. And so we've got that sort of quality in CRL now. But let's move along, talk Northwood, because we could have kind of done the domino effect with Baylor, Northwood, Michigan State, because Zanil leaves Northwood, goes to Baylor, so Northwood recruits heavily to find a new third. They pick up Drewy, and that leaves Michigan State to bump up Knock back into the starting lineup. That was their team last year, and so Michigan State returned to the Oppa, Morvu, and Knock lineup, while Drewy is now the third alongside Northwood, after Northwood just placed top 4 in CRL last semester.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Northwood, this move surprised me for a lot of reasons. First off, if you are in a spot, and this is more of a social issue than it is a Rocket League issue, in my opinion. If you're in a spot where you are at a D1 university and you are good at Rocket League and you're getting the funding from your school, I'm very surprised that he decided to leave. But if Drury has aspirations to try and be a real factor in CRL, Northwood was fighting extremely hard to find a new third once they knew that Zanil was leaving. And I watched a lot of the players that I work with. I watched those DMs flow in, and Slew did a really good job at recruiting. But I also will say this, and again, this is what the podcast is for. Someone's got to get offended at some point, right? I think personally that Drury was towards the bottom of the list in terms of what Northwood wanted, based on the players that I saw getting DMs. So I don't think Northwood's going to be upset about the move, but I also think Northwood's going to fall a few steps. I also believe, as much as I love Creams, for example, I think this team's going to lose a little bit of creativity, getting Zanil taken away and then bringing Drewy in. That's not to say that Drewy isn't creative. I just don't think him and Zanil are in the same ballpark. So Northwood are still going to be competitive. Don't get me wrong. I think this team is still going to find their way into, I think, and this might be crazy, I think they're going to be in contention of the top 6, and that might be a hot take in itself, but I'll save that for later as well.
I mean, Zanil's a hard player to replace, just with the raw ability on the pitch, and that's why it's such a big pickup for Baylor, and such a big loss for Northwood. But we'll talk more about specifics later on. We do have a lot to get through in this episode. But St. Clair, another team losing a massive instrument in their success, as Arju transfers to Maryville and has been replaced by Vesh, who has been at St. Clair for a pretty long while now. I think 2 years for Vesh, and so he's no stranger to playing on the St. Clair A team, but this is a new level of a St. Clair A team the last time Vesh was in this lineup.
In terms of the most irreplaceable member of any of these roster moves, I think Arju is absolutely the most irreplaceable out of anybody who's been making moves this year. So for St. Clair to lose Arju, that's a really big issue. But what I will also say, and you know, this might be biased because I work with him very closely, Zai has made moves to become a threat And not only that, but has been a huge contributor at the top level of RLCS and also will be in CRL. So I'm not saying that Zai is gonna replace Arju, because I don't think he's there just yet, but I think it's very close. So it's a matter of, can Vesh step up to maybe fill what Jazzy had to do last year, which was a lot of contributions on the backside, maybe taking a player out here and there, maybe slowing things down, beating 2 players at a time. It's those small things that obviously so many high level players can do in CRL nowadays. Can Vesh match that? I believe he can, but St. Clair did take a little drop in my rankings.
And I've just realized that I should probably say something about this, but this column over here showing which leagues all these schools are playing in, this is based on registration data that is public, which is all of the league except for PCL. So PCL is listed here in a couple of spots, but that's just because I assume they'll be playing there again because of success they had in the fall. So it's listed for Cumberland and nowhere else that I see right now. PCL is not public. The other leagues are, and so that's what I use to put this little table together to show you all where you can see these teams play. And NECC is a good spot, very top heavy with the Super League this semester. They got West Virginia as well, who I honestly think have upgraded with S5 Cosmic. Like the Tool and Angel chemistry is something that will have to be kind of rebuilt with this trio, but man, if S5 Cosmic didn't look like a beast in that colleague pre-jump tournament over the summer with Ole Miss.
I'll even say, screw the colleague tournament. Cosmic in general has always been an incredible player. He's also a ones merchant in the best way possible. So you made the point about Gyro and Angel having to rebuild chemistry. I'm going to throw another kind of wrench in the plans. Angel should take a dang seat and let these two work. Angel should absolutely sit back and let these two work. He was coaching last year, and now with all of that, he gets to sit back and watch 2 of the most talented players West Virginia has ever had on a Rocket League pitch. He gets to watch them go to work. So absolutely, I hope he sits back and lets these two go, because no midfield is safe with Gyro and Cosmic. The chat was talking about a Cream's Drury demo duo. I unironically believe that this will be a more annoying duo with Gyro and Cosmic.
And moving along, this was mentioned in Twitch chat to kind of correct you and me for talking about teams that swapped A and B team players. I think it was Nutty that said it, so shout out Nutty. But Bruton Parker have swapped Milk and Antics. True. And this was a shocking one. I saw that Bruton Parker was playing in the NECC, and so I looked at their roster, and it was Antics, Milk, and Cass. And I said Milk and Antics switched. No, Manny and Antics switched. But I saw that there was no Manny in there. I figured it's just a registration thing. Antics was going to be the 4th man again, and Manny just hadn't signed up yet. But no, Milk has confirmed it with me that Manny and Antics have switched. Manny is bumped down, and Antics is back in the A-team lineup. And this is a curious one for me. I'm sure there are greater internal reasons than what we are given, TJ, because I've been discussed, I've been told about like role clashes with Antics and Milk previously, and so with Bruton Parker changing this lineup at this point after a kind of a rough fall, I'm curious about what bringing Antics back into the lineup does for him.
Well, I have some journalism to add to this. From multiple sources, it was a internal program vote. It was a team vote.
Interesting.
That is what got the switch. Now, I will bite my tongue, because I do not believe that this was the right solution, and I am very strongly against the switch. And I don't want to add much more to it, because I want to give Antics... I mean, Shane's a great dude. Really awesome dude. I really hope he gets a chance to prove himself very soon, which NECC, obviously, placement tournament tomorrow. I'm excited for Bruton Parker. Obviously, being a Georgia guy, I'm always excited for Bruton Parker. But not seeing Manny on this A-team roster is going to be a very hard sight for me this year in terms of how I analyze this team. But I want to give Shane his chance. Again, he's a good player. And if he's grinding again, he could be a top 32, top 48 RLCS level talent. He's done that many times before over the span of years. So if we can get that consistency back, and then if Cass can keep improving on his own game, find some confidence in the field, I mean, Milk's always been getting better. So they got potential. It's just a tough one to see.
Also, I just realized I screwed up with the West Virginia lineup. I don't know why I was thinking Angel is still playing. Matter is still in the lineup. I put Angel down. He's listed as the captain in NACE, and my brain just defaulted to old West Virginia in thinking about that, because he was coaching last semester, and I think he is still the 4th man officially, TJ. because
he is legally allowed to play.
Yeah,
because he is a grad assistant.
Matter is playing there, and I mean, this is why we do the podcast, because we're still prone to mistakes, but yeah, Matter Gyro and S5 Cosmic, and Angel is the fourth man there. I'm so RLCS 2022 pilled that Angel and Tool like being together and in the same conversation is just natural for me. So as a correction there, thank you to TN for shouting that out. But yeah, back to the discussion if we want to keep talking Bruton Parker or keep moving along.
I think we're good to move, and I'm gonna kind of grab the wheel for a second because I will also add in that we are the first show doing all these moves, so we apologize for the mistakes, but somebody's got to make all of them so that the next shows can actually have the right words to say. So on that note, sorry, but we're doing our part. Thank you guys for helping. But then I will also add on that makes West Virginia maybe an extra spot or two better, because I was also going under the assumption that maybe something happened to Matt and maybe he couldn't play. But anyways, let's keep moving down the line. I'm going to ETSU again. There's another roster move like this and Bruton Parker. These are the only two roster moves that I'm going to heavily bite my tongue on. Now, granted, ETSU was unavoidable because Landon was graduating. They knew that. Where I have an issue is that they didn't go ahead and try to recruit somebody else and that they're going to bank on Adrift. Now, you're probably saying, TJ, you are so mean. Why would you ever say such a thing? I'm not saying that Adrift is a miserable player. I am not saying that. But when it comes to how he's going to fit in this rotation, in terms of what I have seen from Adrift playing, now granted, I have not seen the scrims this semester, so maybe I'm missing some context, but if it's anything off of the last semester or two, I will say that I'm a little concerned about where ETSU is going to stand this year. Leo and Kasai are two incredible players, and their duo, like, this has been something for years that they've played together, and they look great. But what made this team special is that even when one of them or both of them struggled, Landon was able to not only pick up the pieces, but Landon was actually leading at times. I don't believe that Adrift can fill that aspect of Landon's game, but that's just my personal take. I'll have to wait and see.
The Twitch chat's saying that apparently Adrift has been looking pretty good, as per Skyline. Nutty's saying it as well. So I don't know what to make of it. Honestly, I think it is going to bring them a step down before it potentially brings them back up. But I mean, it's a similar situation to St. Clair, where this new third is being introduced to an already stellar duo of players, and so I think Vesh and Adrift are going to have some pressure on their shoulders to be grinding, especially this semester, so that their teams can maintain similar, if not better, statuses than in the fall. But I mean, for now, this is kind of a wait and see roster move. It's not one like with Akron Gold, where I think it is going to make them better right off the bat. But I think for ETSU, I'm definitely going to have to see what Adrift is able to do with the two freshmen. And I mean, talking about other European import, next team down the list is Lubbock Christian, as they finally got their guy Beastie, who was supposed to be there in the fall. I don't know what happened, what made it fall through, but it fell through, and Lubbock Christian suffered because of that. They only beat like Bruton Parker twice, and all the other top 32 teams they played, they lost to in the fall. And so I don't know who Beastie's playing, which is why I've got him as the fourth man here in the LCU lineup. But really good player, and I think Lubbock Christian will be back in the conversation again this semester.
I have no doubt that LCU is going to make their way towards the power rankings, which again, we'll talk about that later in the show. But also, I'm very excited for LCU because I think this is the first time they've gotten an extremely current player in a very long time. Like, Process and Smacked have been there for years. Like, they must be doing a master's, or they must be finishing up this semester or something like that. They've been there for a long time. So I'm excited for those two, even if one of them gets subbed out, which unfortunately I think could happen to Process. Nasirium, even when he came into LCU, he was well past his prime. So now for LCU, you finally get a very current, game-changing type of player. Now, granted, Beastie isn't like making lands, but he is still a huge change, and he will immediately become the best player on this roster, in my opinion. Granted, I do think the only player safe, though, is Schmacked. So we'll have to wait and kind of see what the final decision is whenever Nace gets up and running. But I am just really excited that LCU is gonna push back towards relevance again.
A couple other exciting roster moves. I forgot to format this, but WCTC and Florida Southern both have picked up exciting new thirds. With WCTC, they lost Gio after the fall semester due to personal reasons on Gio's part, and so we are going to miss talking about him. That dude is a character, and I'm going to miss him. But Ty and Neeks are playing alongside Dimitri, and Ty was telling me that this Dimitri guy I hadn't heard of before, he teamed with him in RLCS quals, and they made top 33 in RLCS quals. So if that's the type of caliber player we're talking about, then we could still see WCTC in that top 32 conversation, looking to push even further this semester.
I will say, as somebody who is friends with a few six-man's demons, I actually am familiar with Dimitri and his game. I'm actually very excited. I do think, and Ty is in the chat, so again, like, this is not me being offensive. Dimitri is a great player. Now, is he the best player on this roster? I think there's an argument. I think there's an argument to be had about that. So immediately he becomes a game changer. And that has nothing to do with Gio. I wish him nothing but the best. I'm not saying that he was the worst or the best player on this roster, but this is a upgrade. And I think it changes the way WCTC is going to have to play the game as well. And I think it's all positive. So I think, again, in terms of like, who does the top 25 sleep on whenever you have that conversation of who's going to be right outside the top 32, who could upset a top 25 team, I think WCTC is in that conversation.
So basically a similar position as they were in the last semester, which honestly, if you're losing Gio, that's not a bad place to kind of hypothetically be in, looking at these preseason moves. But Florida Southern, I think this is an exciting one as well, because they were a team that was always kind of a threat to the top 48, but now I think should firmly be in that top 48, because you got Astro, and yes, it is the Astro, like RLCS Astro, playing alongside now Ulity, who was a B team player bumped up to A team for the last semester, and K Frost, who was transferred in from King to do his postgraduate degree. And then this is an exciting move, because K Frost, I mean, on King and Florida for that CCS summer, he is an exciting player to watch, and I think Florida Southern should be considered a threat now with K Frost coming in.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it right before we went live, too. We're very excited to see what roles is Astro going to get to play on this roster. K-Frost in his career, and even when I was coaching with him and Gad and Larry, shout out, K-Frost was a more defensive player. He's also an extremely smart player, so I expect him to control the back line. I expect him to be the absolute fail-safe in every living situation, but also K-Frost may be UNC, he may be grad program, but he can pull out a few mechanics here and there. I've seen that man do some crazy things, but you want to talk about guys who are doing crazy things on and off the pitch? Astro is right there with him. He is incredible. Also just a great dude in general, at least from all the conversations that we've had with him. I'm extremely excited because Astro has not gotten what I would argue is a equal or at least almost equal talent on this roster in a very long time, if ever. So now that he gets K-Frost, I think this roster completely changes. I think it puts them up on WCTC's level of teams who are right outside who could upset. I'll make that argument. I'm not familiar with Ulti, but I'll make that argument today. I
mean, I think Ulti has a lot to prove. He's going to be in that third that needs to prove himself range of players that we've already kind of discussed so far in the podcast. And kind of the story in the fall was about those players, the glue guys that have to step up and grind to keep up with the two players they're playing with. And so I think this team is going to be dependent on whether or not Ulti can be a threat on the ball, because if he's kind of a weak tip of the spear up front for this team, I think they might fall flat against better rosters, but that's a conversation we can have once we actually get some tape on these guys, because they were playing in the SEL tier assignment last night. I was watching the stream hoping to get some good nuggets of info from it, and they were just destroying who all they were playing with. So you didn't get much in the way of tape from these guys, but I think we will soon, because they are playing on my stream tonight against Michigan State. So make sure you stay tuned for Tuesday Night Lights tonight, because we've got 4 of these solid rosters: Syracuse, Michigan State, Florida Southern, and an Akron Gold playing tonight. And TJ, we haven't listed this roster, but I hear UGA has made a change as well. Do you know anything about the shuffling going on in Athens?
No. I mean, I'm completely unaware. Let's talk about St. Clair Gold.
All right.
With Fatal, with Fatal and Barris, those are two names that we are. No, okay. Jokes aside, well, UGA will play with a new roster tonight. Just tune into the game tonight. That's all I will say. Now with St. Clair Gold, adding Fabso into the fray. St. Clair Gold had one of the weirdest B team semesters of all time last semester. They were very, very up, and then they were very, very down. I think that's because the way the St. Clair Gold has always been treated, it's been a revolving door of players moving up and down the chain in the St. Clair program. But now that there is no such thing as an academy team, everybody who is on this gold roster is there to grind and will most likely be grinding together unless things go very wrong with Vesh, which I don't believe that they will. So with that, I think that the tone and the mental behind this team has changed completely. And I also believe that when you look at Christian and True, who were on the roster last year, versus Fabso, I believe it's an upgrade. I think that this is now going to be a semester of consistency for gold. And if some of these players play their cards right, they may even jump up to green. But either way, I think no matter what, whether Vesh moves up and down, no matter whether any of these three players move up and down, I think this is going to be a very talented and a very confident St. Clair Gold team. They're going to be hard to beat.
And you said there's no such thing as an academy, but there is a St. Clair Academy team for the record this semester. And it's got Jer Thermalrex is coaching, the legend Goobert, and V-Bell. So I don't know.
Okay, so I won't say they don't exist, but
yeah,
I'm gonna leave it at that.
the legend Goobert has some chapters left to be written in that legend, but that kind of does it for the roster moves. Drexel and Mount Aloysius have also made changes, but I don't know anything about Locke, who is now in the Mount Aloysius starting lineup, and Drexel, who have Zerf and Kevin, but I don't know anything about their new guys as well. So we're gonna wait to discuss them if they end up doing something notable, because Drexel really fell off, and Mount Aloysius is still kind of developing with that Pigby and Skippy duo. But we went through all the rosters in about 25 minutes, which I think is pretty impressive for us, TJ. That was a big chunk of the show right there.
Well, I've got two more notes to throw on too. In case you're wondering, where is Missouri and where is St. Edwards? Missouri, gone. We don't know who's playing.
Yeah.
We have no idea who's playing for Missouri. Now, when it comes to St. Edwards, you have better knowledge than I do, because I don't know what happened with them recruiting a new third. Because I thought they had it in writing.
So I don't know either. Their director, Tony, I talked to him about it. He wouldn't give a reason, just for stuff behind the scenes, which is fair enough. It's totally standard. And he just said that they wouldn't be fielding a team this spring, but would definitely be back with a bang in the fall semester. So I'm thinking it's more of a Lubbock Christian situation where St. Edwards just didn't have a third, really. Because I know Tater isn't competing anymore. I don't think he wants to compete anymore. Maybe he finished up with St. Edwards. I'm not sure what his situation is exactly. But Nolly and Wells, I think, are focusing on the RLCS this semester, and so we'll have to watch for them in the fall, which sucks, because St. Edwards was a lot of fun to watch and made a decent close qualifier run in CRL in the fall, but they are not competing in the spring. And with Missouri, I don't see them anywhere on any sign-up pages for any of the public leagues right now, even the ones they typically compete in. Even in CCS, I went into their team channel, and Colin Graham was like, no, we're not competing, but we'll be back potentially for the fall. And it was the pretty much main Missouri team that competed in the CCS last semester. So that leads me to believe there isn't a main Missouri team that's willing to compete like that this semester. So that's those are the big notable names that we're missing out on.
Yeah, so I'll also add on my 2 quick cents. We can keep moving. So that means that for St. Edwards, we hope that they will bring in a new third and keep Nolly and Wellis together, because they are still incredible players. And if they get another RLCS level third, they're going to be a threat. But for the Missouri side of things, that must mean that Bubs is a Valorant main, which you should go watch Missouri Valorant, because Bubs is pretty dang good at that. So go cheer him on for sure. But then what I will also add on is that the Missouri Rocket League fall off, and I don't want to use fall off, but I'm going to say the mismanagement of how that team has kind of crumbled over the last 2 years, that's going to be a topic that's going to be a real uncomfortable conversation if they don't even field a club team for CCS this year. So I'm going to throw in my 2 cents on that. You know, I love Bubs, love those guys to death. Again, I'm an SEC fan at heart, would love to see Missouri play. We'll talk about it on a future episode probably. So it just sucks that they can't play.
And Nation says that apparently they're holding tryouts next week. So
it could be the club, it could be varsity.
Yeah,
we don't know.
We have no idea. That's all the information that we've got on Missouri, unfortunately. So probably missing out on them as well as St. Edwards. But we got most returning teams, which is just all right with me for now because we got action actually kicking off this week. The PEC has started unofficially. I don't have any segments actually for that, but I will say we have already seen Syracuse, Boise State, and Michigan State play. Michigan State's played both those teams in a pair of best of fives that happened this week and last week. If you want to watch some of those replays, I've started uploading on YouTube again where I do demo reviews and talk over them. I watched Michigan State beat Boise State in Game 5 last night. It was a really close series, and I also watched Syracuse decimate Michigan State last week. That was a sweep where Syracuse looked so dominant, and I thought Michigan State was going to be bad after watching that, and then they come out and beat Missouri this week. So that's how good Syracuse looked. But that's all we have so far when it comes to action. But the NECC kicks off tomorrow with placement tournaments, and I've got 2 brackets to show everyone. First one I'm going to start out with is this promotion tournament, because for Division 1, the NECC is running a promo tournament for what looks like top placing teams from Division 2 last semester, plus Bruton Parker, who are a new addition to the NECC, and I guess are so good on paper, they're just like, all right, you play in the promotion tournament. And here's the bracket. It's going to be tomorrow. I'll be streaming it starting at 6 Central, 7 Eastern, and these are the teams playing in it, and it looks like the top 4 move on. The NECC Rocket League game lead hasn't gotten back to me with a couple of questions because I know that Lubbock Christian and Cumberland aren't returning to the NECC, but that still leaves 14 fall Division 1 teams that are accounted for as playing in the NECC, which confuses me because either D1 is expanding to 18 teams, which wouldn't make much sense, or you have a couple other teams that aren't returning to Division 1, but I don't have the answers on that just yet. These are the teams, though, TJ. What do you make of the bracket?
Well, I will say you're getting my live reactions because, believe it or not, no matter what rumors you may hear, I am not playing for UGA in the NECC placement tournament, so I have no idea. I haven't even looked yet. But what I will say, Bruton Parker, I think, got a extremely lucky top side. What I am more confused about is how Florida and St. Clair Gold, and I'll even throw in Davenport Red, all ended up on the same side together.
Oh, man.
But also, I will say, as much as I am, and like Jacob Van Ryn, who runs NECC, he is a great dude. He listens to the community. He does his absolute best. But I will also say the NECC and their seating issues have been a very long issue over what I would argue is probably 3 to 4 years.
Hold on. Before you go on that tangent, I worked out why the seating is what it is, and I can explain it. It's logical, I promise you, but I need a second to find the brackets. Did St. Clair Gold screw it up? No, it's based on the playoffs in the fall, which had some weird results. And so I can pull that up in a second.
Okay. Well, if somebody threw, then you know what? Fair play. That's my knee-jerk reaction right there. But I will still say that it is a tragedy, and Bruton Parker should probably only drop a game, maybe another game in the final as well up there. They should roll through this pretty fairly easily. Now, in terms of that bottom side, oh man, I think because of how soon all these roster changes have been happening, like I know St. Clair probably didn't get back into the States until maybe the week before school started, maybe a little less than that. I do think Florida comes out of that top side with a very close win over St. Clair Gold. I think it's going to take them an extra week or two before they actually break that consistency habit that they couldn't find last year for St. Clair. So I do think no matter what, though, it will be Florida and St. Clair. I think both those teams should have no issue moving through. And
I'm going to drag the brackets over real fast. So this is why the seating is what it is. because technically, because of this weird East playoff bracket where, so in the championship right now, I'm not going to recrop, I'm just going to say it verbally, Charlotte ended up winning over Cleveland State, and so that makes Cleveland State one of the top seeds here. And then if you look at the West bracket, Davenport Red beat Carthage in the championship, so that makes them a top seed. So the top seeds here, despite the numbers next to the names, are Davenport Red and Cleveland State. And then if you work your way down, St. Clair Gold and Southeastern Oklahoma should be the bottom seeds because Southeastern Oklahoma finished third, which is the worst placement for a West Central team that is in the promo tournament. And, where are we now? And then St. Clair Gold did kind of throw and finish top 6 in East playoffs. So that is why St. Clair Gold are on this side of the bracket. And then they fit Bruton Parker into the middle of the seeding here. But it is based on playoff bracket placement from the fall, and Bruton Parker's tossed in there as well.
Okay, well, first off, W journalism by MrBepic. Round of applause for Bepic journalism.
This is what I do in my free time.
I will also say that even though it makes sense, I'm going to wait until they place everybody in Div 2, Div 3, etc. before I go on another seeding tangent.
There you go.
But, let's get live reaction to the rest of it, too. So let me make sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of understanding how these placement tournaments work. And Bepic, stop me if I say something wrong.
Okay.
From my understanding of the placement tournaments, they are supposed to be not like, I don't want to say equal matchups for their first round, but it's what you would expect kind of in these 4-team sections, as somebody is the 1 seed, somebody is the 4 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, and they kind of break all of these up like group A1, A2, that is 1 through 4 seeding, B1, B2, same thing, and it keeps moving down and down by what I understood was tiers up until this Florida Southern USC area. I get a little confused down here, but for the top part, those first 3 groups, I see the reasoning behind those. Some exciting matchups.
Yeah, I don't know how it's seeded, honestly. That is something I don't know for certain, but how I do know is how the reactions affect placement. There is a committee that takes these results. It's not definitive, so like if Daytona State were to beat Conestoga and then probably Indiana, no offense, Dylan, in the next matchup, then they're not guaranteed to be in like Division 2 or something. That's just a consideration that then the NECC committee will take in placing all of these teams based on how they did in the fall versus what kind of competition versus the RL trackers of the players playing on the teams, etc. And while we are kind of shaming the NECC, why on earth is this the Zippy placement tournament? This makes no sense. And if you're an outside person trying to keep track of the NECC within the broader CRL context, how are you going to know to go to the Zippy placement tournament to find your top teams? Because you've got Breakout, you've got Fennec, you got Hotshot, Merc, Octane, Takumi, Scarab, and Zippy. And so I defaulted to Octane just to see if this was the top teams. And you got Penn State White versus the University of Puerto Rico Green, and that's definitely not them. And so NECC, please make your website easier for the general population to keep track of. I would really appreciate it. But if anyone wants to look at this, go to Zippy, and you got yourself the top dogs in the placement tournament.
Well, I will also add on that this is now going to probably be the 3rd straight year that me and you have both made the argument that why does NECC not actually rank the placement tournaments? Why do we not say this is the Division 2, Division 3 placement tournaments? This is the Division 4, Division 5. I don't understand. Shout out to the University of Puerto Rico, but why are they in that bracket with that name? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So on that note, yeah, it's who knows, but I will say, putting it as the last letter in the alphabet, it was probably the worst decision because that makes the least amount of sense. But I don't want to waste time. We got a lot to go through. Let's talk about these matchups. I'm gonna let you talk about Daytona State and Conestoga. I'm gonna go ahead and throw one on Indiana. I think no matter who makes it out of each side, give me Indiana in Group A.
Oh yeah, I don't even have specifics to talk about with Daytona State and Conestoga. Daytona State hasn't really been relevant since Ian left, and Conestoga is a decent team, like top 48 maybe. if they've pulled some good results consecutively. This is Indiana's group for certain, and I think we're seeing that in some cases, like San Diego State. This should obviously be their group. You're going to get some decent competition with NAU, Oklahoma, and A&M, but San Diego State are a cut above those rosters. And then you look at this group. I'm actually not sure between UCF and GVSU, but I think there are clear-cut favorites in these groups that you should be looking at if they lose, because that's when these placement matches are significant. Is if these teams whose names you recognize right off the bat lose a match in the preseason, because that might show you that they're either not where they should be quite yet as a roster, or they're not in mid-season form quite yet. Maybe everywhere except for South Carolina versus UNCC. This is the UNCC A team that we are all used to. They are now a club roster, and so I think in most cases you've got a clear-cut favorite except with South Carolina and UNCC.
Well, I will say as well, there is one match that I think everybody should have their eyes glued to. I think Wade just brought it up. Look at Group E1. Bruton Parker, JV. Oh, it is a version of Fisher. Go look at who's on that roster. It is what should be Fouls, Adam, and then either my boy Press or Tallybird. Both very, like, for third men options, they're going to be decent options. I think that they could be as good as Wish, potentially. I think Manny and Kyler should be able to put up a fight, but if Fouls and Adam are both on the pitch, I think Fisher makes it through this group without a problem. And then here's my follow-up issue. The fact that this is all the way down in this weird kind of Florida Southern group, there is a very, very funny world where one of Bruton Parker JV or Fisher College Navy ends up in Division 3. I'm going to throw that out there. It's a really funny world where, because it's a first-round matchup, it could happen. Now, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. Both these teams should be Division 2 locks. But we'll have to see how they play against Florida Southern. That right there, that group of 4 teams, will be probably the best cinema out of all of these placement groups.
Well, I think with all this discussion leads to the big point of NECC. If you want a great seating committee, hire us right here. We're ready to help you make some decisions as to which team should be where based on these placement results. We're happy to help. But that is happening tomorrow, starting at 6 Central. So same time as that promo tournament that we were talking about. And so that is what's kind of on the top of the docket this week when it comes to important action. The SCL and NEL tier assignment first week is happening. C3 is also happening. Got some good matchups there, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But last thing on NECC real fast is that they have released their nationals format, and so for my NECC schools, make sure you're on top of this, because these points are going to determine whether, if you're in D1, how you get to the Nationals LAN, and if you're in D2, how you potentially make some money. But it's not cropping super well. Sorry for the flashbang, but this is the point system based on fall into spring. And first of all, you make your nationals bracket through either winning fall or winning spring, or the last chance qualifier bracket. And you make it to the last chance qualifier bracket by being in either the top 8 or top 16 of teams in your division that earn points. And this option 2 here is how you earn points. This is season placement, so your regular season placement, and then your playoff placement right here. And then there are reductions if you change divisions, but we're not going to worry about that. But I wanted to put this up on the podcast, and if someone needs a link, you can DM me for it. It's also in the NECC Discord, but I wanted to make sure everyone was on top of how you do qualify for the NECC LAN and championships and all that fun stuff.
I will also add on that while we were yapping along, Rhyolite has confirmed that Columbia have gotten Kamikaze.
Oh, shoot.
Which is a huge, huge addition to that team. And in terms of who the starting lineup is, Rhyolite, I don't know, is Gusky or Excelst playing? If you want to let us know, we'll fix our roster notes. But I want to make sure that's stated on the podcast so that people hear it. That's a huge change, huge change for Columbia.
Yeah, that's big. It's gonna be him, Gusky, and Kazi. Okay, so there you go. That's official for Columbia. No Excels. There's another live collegiate exclusive for everyone. This is why you tune in live right here. Otherwise, we find out about this tomorrow morning, whenever the VOD goes up. So thank you, Rhyolite, for saying that, because I can't remember if it was me that you told. I totally forgot about that, and I didn't see you guys in any of the registration stuff, which is where I pulled all of my roster data from, because my brain has left fall in the dust, honestly. So if I heard about it last semester, I've totally forgotten about it. But I think we can move along, because we've got NECC. I want to briefly talk about. We don't have actual action for NECC, TJ, but we do know the top 8 that we're playing in Super League, which is the top at NECC division for those that don't know. And it'll be St. Clair, East Tennessee State, West Virginia, Bruton Parker, Winthrop, Akron, Ball State, and Baylor. And we know for sure it's those 8. I don't know if they're staying at 10 teams and that 2 other teams are in it, but as far as I know, that's Super League for the spring here.
Which also means it's going to be one of the tightest contended Super Leagues I think we've had in a very long time. Having West Virginia, Winthrop, Baylor, and St. Clair, also new look Akron, Ball State, this will be a lot of fun to watch. Now, can you make an argument about ETSU? With the way that NECC works, you can't, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they've kind of been grandfathered in because they played last year and performed well enough to make it. I believe that's correct. And also Cumberland, I think, is out of NECC, or are they not?
They are. Well, Cumberland is signed up for NECC, but in the brackets, and I don't know why I don't have a link to the bracket from last semester, so you have to give me a quick second to pull it up. But it's the top 8 in the fall playoffs that make it to Super League, and Cumberland was outside the top 8. They lost to Ball State. I think it was because of I think it was seeding that had them matching up, and so I can't find the bracket, but I think that's the top 8.
Okay, well, we're just gonna, this Super just goes to show how confusing it is to follow these leagues. So on that note, it will be a lot of fun to watch St. Clair, West Virginia, Winthrop, and Baylor. And if Ball State and Akron can find a few wins here and there, like we know NECC tends to provide, why not? But what I will also say is that NECC and some of these teams have really weird histories. Like Winthrop did not play with Garrett in almost, well, not almost all.
Like half
in a
and
lot
half.
of the, it was weird. Like Garrett just didn't play in NECC half the time. So as long as these teams actually care and put in their full starting lineups, we're going to get probably the best league. It probably will be the best league. I think they'll be NECC for content if they can make sure those teams all show up and are ready to play. But again, we do this episode so dang early that all we can do is just prophesize. So I hope that Winthrop will actually put their starting 3 forward.
And that's all the information I've got on NECC, except for these registration dates that I wanted to put up on screen. Shout out to College Esports News for this information. They posted this a couple weeks ago, and I did retweet it on the Collegiate Exclusive account. But these are the registration dates, and most have closed except for PCL's ranked division. The Premier Division has closed registration. That was yesterday. I think they might have extended it to today, I saw in an announcement. But regardless, if you're not already signed up, you've probably missed the window. And then NECC Varsity Plus ends on February 2nd, and then February 9th is their club signups. And then over here you've got NECC and ECAC, which have long since closed. And no CRL registration on here at T-Ham. We would love to cover it. I'm still gonna be the CRL beat reporter for College Esports News, but we don't got nothing to report on the CRL front just yet. But that's a whole segment later on in the show.
All I'm gonna say about that is that if you have not already started referring to CRL as all of Collegiate Rocket League, you're behind, because obviously those who run the named CRL league,
They should lose the rights.
Are they
honestly?
Are they alive? Are they present? I mean, like I made a tweet yesterday saying, "Hey guys, where is CRL? Because I'm getting really, really bad vibes of what happened all the way back in spring of 2024 when CRL just snapped its way out of existence." So all I'm going to say is that I'll wait until this last NA Open event is my last hope. Because if they announce it at the Boston Major, that would be very, very late and very, very impossible. So if they don't announce it by championship weekend of Open 3, then I guess Epic and Blast just don't want to run it. But who knows? We never got an answer on spring 2024 either. So we'll keep a close eye on that. And hopefully we'll have news for you guys soon. But as of right now, maybe we'll get a bunch of 2v2 and 1v1 tournaments. Maybe we'll get that.
Because we all enjoyed those and watching that content until
1 a.m.
1 a.m. Whenever Somber finished streaming that night, because he was the only one of us that's actually stuck it out. Shout out Somber for that Cumberland stream. Not many people can do that for twos. But
they better pay him good next time. I swear to God.
we got more of the Alphabet Soup leagues to shout out, because ECAC and PCL don't really have anything for us to talk about, honestly. But yeah, it wouldn't be a start to this season without at least mentioning them. So I wanted to shout out ECAC for having their rosters public. All 168 teams signed up for the ECAC. You can scroll through here, get you some nice nuggets of information. This is where I cross-reference the NECC roster of Bruton Parker Premier, being Antics, Milk, and Cass as their starting three. And then you can scroll through, see what else you got. Some Wichita State action here. You don't see that many spots. You think it's NACE and ECAC that they're playing in. But yeah, a lot of teams to scroll through. ECAC, I mean, in all honesty, TJ, that's like I honestly think it's the fourth league down on the totem pole, if I'm being quite honest. I think we made fun of their championship broadcast last semester. It doesn't feel like ECAC is anything other than a placeholder league at the moment for some of these teams.
Yeah, I keep having to bite my tongue because I'm not trying to end up on a billboard tomorrow. Just go back and watch the ECAC championships last semester. That's all. We can keep moving.
There'll be some decent matchups. I mean, you got Akron, you got Concord in there, Kaiser, Cumberland. So there's some good names that typically don't match up until very late in the season. So they're also the only league that I don't know is hosting a spring LAN. They had a series of showcase LANs in the spring last year. I don't know if those are coming back or not. Haven't seen anything about it. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. That's ECAC. PCL. I'm gonna show their registration numbers because that's a good segue into the next segment. But they don't make their rosters public after registration, which is a thumbs down from me, because I was enjoying sifting through them last week and getting all the information. That's how I missed out on Columbia having a different roster and some changes like that. But they got 35 teams in the Premier Division signed up right now, and in the Ranked Division got 59 teams, and I believe signups are still open. Which, before you lay into them, TJ, this is comparable to NACE's numbers, for the record.
Well, funny enough, I actually wasn't going to lay into them for Rocket League. I was just going to say that we've talked about PCL as a whole ever since they were announced, ever since they were founded. And where I get concerned is I'm looking at the registration numbers for all of the other games. Like in Premier, I'm seeing 14 in Siege, 27 in Rivals. I mean, you can keep scrolling down and you can keep going down the list. Like, I'm more concerned about that than I am about Rocket League. Now, the fact that Rocket League is their best game, that's great.
Testament to Rocket League.
That. Yes, it's a testament to, maybe there should be a certain developer who should run a certain developer-based league for all these Collegiate Rocket League teams to compete and hold a national championship. But what do I know? What do I know? Anyways, for PCL as a brand, keep a close eye on all those other leagues. But for Rocket League, very happy. I hope that they have a great year.
All right, Oasis wanted us to look at Apex, so we're gonna look
less
at
than
Apex.
5.
Hold on, that's
0.
No. Those zeros are the like week 2, week 3. It's 14.
Okay.
It's 14.
Oh my God.
So,
well, that's why I want to bring it up. Hey, let it be known that Octane Collegiate's the best dang group in the nation when it comes to big developer-backed leagues. They run incredible Apex and Rainbow Six Siege leagues. It's the best in the nation for a reason. So, PCL, good luck. Have fun.
All right. Next up in the alphabet, big bowl of alphabet soup that we've got right now. C3 actually kicks off tonight, the North and South Carolina League, which we do enjoy talking about on this podcast. Nate Dogg, this is whose tweet I have pulled up. You can't see his name, but go follow him at the Nate Dogg _. He's a big listener to the podcast, and I actually just followed him back. You can see him in the top right. He should have been followed back already, but we got a couple of decent matchups tonight. You got South Carolina versus UNCG. That's okay, but Winthrop Academy versus UNC Charlotte. That honestly is a banger. It's happening at 8 p.m. Eastern for those that want to go watch on the C3 Esports League channel.
Whenever you're switching between C3 and Tuesday Night Lights, it's a really good night for Rocket League, and there is some great matchups. Also, make sure you do go follow the Nate Dogg _. I'm being very literal, because when it comes to kind of regional and national directors of leagues, there is not a single other person who seems to show the same amount of active love that, like, for example, I think a lot of people really love the SCL because of what me and Bepic get to do, because of what so many of our staff get to do. There is nobody else across the nation who shows that same level of affection for this game and for their teams than Nate Dogg. He is absolutely one of the best when it comes to who's actually making change in the scene at a regional level. And make sure that you go support C3. They're going to have a great opening night. And
Bearlight is also involved there as well. He's a director of partnerships, I think, on like a full-time official basis. So for my Bearlight fans in chats, that's some more credence to how good C3 is getting. And Dave, to answer your question, C3 stands for the Carolina Collegiate Clash. It's so I guess the C in C3 stands for Carolina, but it really means 3 C's and what the acronym is. But shout out to C3 starting tonight. And this is a verbal shout out because tier assignment started this week, but Southeastern Esports League, Northeastern Esports League. If you want more leagues to get involved with on the regional side, C3 is a great one. The SEL and the NEL are also great ones, which that's what me and TJ are directly involved with. So definitely look to get involved in more of your local regional space, whatever floats your boat there. But that's action we're getting in this. I pronounced today, TJ, the last day of preseason CRL, because I think we're kind of actually into the season now. With NECC placements tomorrow, we got show matches tonight, C3 tonight, PEC's already kicked off. I feel like today is the last day we can kind of consider preseason.
Yeah, absolutely, and all these roster moves have been finalized as well. So regardless of whatever you call the best CRL league, or no matter who runs it, like, we're here. The season is finally here, and as we approach February, I am more than thrilled. We also have a very, very big slew of LAN events going on this semester. Some very, very big ones. A big new one ran by Nutty himself, who is a goat of a TO, who I've been fortunate enough to work with over the last semester and a little bit of change. So do we want to get into spring LANs?
Let's do registration numbers first, and then we'll do spring LANs, because this is a quick one.
Over that.
But I did want to talk about it because we talked about it for a couple of weeks actually during fall registration period, but the episode didn't line up for spring, so we just kind of have the final numbers almost. And NACE and PCLs we've already talked about still have their Varsity Plus and Ranked and Club and whatever still open, so these numbers will probably increase. But we just showed PCL's numbers, and those added up to 93 teams across Ranked and Premier, expected to go up at least a little bit. And then on the NACE side, you've got Varsity Premier sitting at 55 teams right now. You've got Varsity Plus sitting at 36, and then you don't have numbers visible for the club side. So that adds up to 90 teams plus whatever they get on the club side, which is right around what PCL is at. And then I would expect small bumps on both sides, and then whatever we get on the the club side for NECC. So, TJ, we said this last semester jokingly, but PCL and NECC would be really comparable to the numbers of ECAC and NECC if they just merged.
Yeah, God forbid the idea of one actual fully funded league with maybe some regional LANs, maybe some showcases here and there. Yeah. What do we know? We've just been in the scene for way too dang long. But I also will say, because this needs to be public knowledge, the buy-in and value you get from NECC versus the value and buy-in that you get from PCL and the cost are two completely different conversations. So though the registration numbers are the same, this is a good semester for NECC. For PCL, based on what I know about their fees and what you get, they are the 4th best national league. Just want to make sure that's known so that people understand the difference between why the numbers look low and what is called the Super League. It's because the buy-in and what you get in NECC is a lot. Yeah. Granted, they are still expecting to run a huge LAN for the championships at the end of the year. They did a really, really awesome production in Orlando last year. I expect that to be the same. That's what you get with NECC. So I just want to, even though I hate on all these leagues equally here and there, I want to give NECC their props there. They're not comparable, even though they are by number.
Yeah, and with NECC, you also have the varsity requirement and varsity regulations that come with it. That's another element. And, I mean, this isn't any offense thrown at Akron, but having a LAN in the Akron ballroom versus the Full Sail Arena, although PCL Spring LAN is going to be at the Waco venue that CECC is going to be at. So they are upgrading for that. But the Full Sail Arena is insane. But that's where those two stand for sure. So do keep that in mind if you are out there making decisions. And then on the NECC side, actually no, I'm going to save them for last because they're the biggest, and I think most people probably know that. But it's a nice little build. ECAC is sitting at 168, which we already showed. It's a lot of teams. You can scroll through and have a grand old time. It is a lot of randoms, though. You've got some good ones, but if you're comparing the density of top 32, top 48 teams at the top of ECAC versus the density of those same teams at the top of NECC and NECC, it's not comparable. And ECAC is a great option for smaller schools, and this is some insight into how smaller schools budget work, because ECAC offer a ton of games. They offer probably the most amount of games out of all the leagues. And so that is a huge bang for your buck for your smaller schools like ECPI or SUNY Potsdam or Brooklyn College. And that's why it's kind of a bunch of random names.
Well, but also that's what ECAC wants to be. They want to be the more grassroots, kind of support as many programs across as many levels as they can. I've also met a lot of directors in ECAC, like a lot of the staff and also a lot of the schools who are involved. ECAC as an identity is for those smaller schools. Yeah. So this is good for them. 168, this is a good semester for them. I'm excited for that group. And
Tihan in chat is saying that apparently the PCL LAN doesn't include the games that played in the fall. So I guess my comment about the Akron University ballroom, or the University of Akron ballroom, comparing to the Full Sail Arena still stands. I kind of felt bad about making that statement, but I don't anymore, because I didn't know that Rocket League wasn't going to be included at the Waco LAN. That sucks, because that is going to be a bigger, cooler LAN attached to CECC, and I feel bad for PCL teams that won't get to play at that LAN. So, okay, good to know, Tian. I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, I also, you know better than me. Does PCL have CECC spots?
Yes, they've got the PCL CECC bid is going to their fall winter, so it's Northwood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means okay, wow. Okay, well, in that case, then I'm going to change my statement ever so slightly. This is kind of the Play VS system. I didn't know this until Tian said it, but I'm also just going to kind of like say this as well. This is what the Play versus system is, that they have a small or like a decent sized LAN for a few games and they flip it for the next semester. It's one of my least favorite systems. When I played back in high school, we had a LAN a semester, and you had all the games on 1 or 2 days, and it was great. It was fun. Everybody gets LAN no matter what. For the college scene, where the talent gets even higher, I can't believe that you're making teams go a whole semester of pure online competition. That is something else by PCL.
That does change on the high school level. Alabama has a LAN per semester for all esports. I know it's a Georgia thing. I don't know why Georgia does it differently.
Wait, is that state-backed, though?
It is, yeah, it's state-backed, HSAA.
Oh, okay.
It's
Must just be a
different on a
Georgia thing,
state-by-state basis. I know some other
Apologies.
states do it where it flips, but Alabama does one per semester. I know that for sure. But that's
Okay. All right.
the difference is at the high school level. So I can see where they would take some of the ideas there and apply it to collegiate. But NECC numbers, aforementioned, they're killing it right now. They doubled up on ECAC with 374 rosters. Shout out NECC for absolutely killing it. And I would say at the very top, they have the most quality rosters when it comes to the top 32, top 48 caliber teams. And NECC is just the best. And they also have things wrong with them that we have talked about in the past and we'll continue to talk about. But at this rate, in collegiate and scholastic esports, everyone has something wrong with them that you kind of have to look past if you're going to get to the positives. And NECC, positives is that they are a high-quality place to play.
Yeah, regardless of how you feel about the platforms or regardless how you feel about each different league staff or no matter what you want to complain about or love about every league, NECC simply knocks everybody out of the park. And they not only do that at the Division 1, Division 2 level in terms of competition, not as like school Division 1, I mean like in terms of your best teams. They also do that for, I think that they're going to have probably 6 or 7-ish, don't say it, chat. They're going to have 6 or 7-ish divisions probably once again this year in NECC. So on that note, good on them because they do a really good job of supporting skill levels all the way down. My only gripe is that for Division 2 and Division 3, I just hope that they get it right this year because they've had some really, really big mess-ups over the last 2 years.
And, Nation also said in Twitch chat that CCS's registrations numbers are at 175 for, and that's another great kind of place to play for those underserved, underfunded club programs. So shout out CCS as well for doing what they do. And I also find it hilarious, Nation, that you were instant with the answer to SJT's question as to what Project One signups look like with the 8. So that's unconfirmed on our part, but that's what Nation's saying Project One is at right now, and we don't have time to talk about Project One on this episode, TJ. We'll skip that one.
I mean, I'll throw 4 words and I'll be done. It shouldn't be an offering. All right, we can move on.
It's 5, but it's
Okay,
all right.
well,
you went over your allotment.
right,
we'll forgive you because we got LANs to talk about. We got to move on quick. And,
it's been a long day.
We know about several LANs already, and there are obvious ones like CECC, NECC, NACE, PCL, which isn't a Rocket League one anymore, but I had it listed, and then SCL and NEL, C3 will be here. I'm not sure about Queen City Clash. Do we know if that's been announced yet? I know that's usually a spring LAN.
My dog Botanic is still helping out with that. I have not heard about that event yet, but I did tell them.
Okay.
I said, hey, Cincinnati gang, if you're running a Rocket League event, please let me know, and I'm gonna try and make it up there. So from what I've been told, they're getting it confirmed, but that was back in November. So we'll see.
And how about, so Skill Issue is an Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas area LAN. It's a small one, but I wanted to put it out there for those that might be in the area looking to compete. And if you are, definitely DM me about it if you feel like it, and I can pass you along to whoever's got the info for that. And Nation is saying that they announced their qualifiers in Discord yesterday. So it looks like it's happening. That's why we didn't have the info on it. It was a yesterday thing. So, all right, Queen City Clash is back. And that was one of those that was kind of similar to BBB back in the several years past, whereas kind of the mid-level teams competing with a sprinkling of top quality competition. So Queen City Clash, hosted by the University of Cincinnati, is going to be back apparently. And then we've got 2 big ones so far that have been announced. Boost on the Beach, TJ, which you're the poster boy for this one, along with the Concord
As I
fellas.
should be.
And I'm off to the side right here because there wasn't enough space on the stage. But I love how your faces line up with the numbers. Yeah, Boost on the Beach is back. And this is one of the best LANs of the calendar. Cool venue where you got to get up on the tables and dance in the middle of Rocket League series, and that the environment is close to unmatched if you're looking at pure video game fun.
This event is easily probably top 1, top 2 LANs every school year, regardless of how you feel about the competition, regardless how you feel about maybe like, oh, this grand final wasn't fun to watch, or oh, maybe we knew this team was going to win the whole time. From a LAN perspective, for the viewer and the player and the coach and the manager and the staff experience, nobody does it like Myrtle Beach, and I'm very excited for the Syracuse crew. Unfortunately, Shenandoah is no longer a part of the event, which I really, really hate because they are incredible at the TO side of things, which they did last year and the year before. I do hate that, but I am very excited for another great year. I will also say, because again, I gotta stroke my ego a little bit. I am the only remaining member of Talent who has been on what will now be the last 3 Boosted on the Beach is. So all I'm saying is that as the kind of unofficial unk of this event, and as a you know, a mental co-owner, I cannot wait to see everybody in Myrtle Beach. It's gonna be a blast.
It is. I was so glad to get to go last year. I was supposed to go 2 years ago. I'd been right there with you with the streak, but my darn ankle gave out the day before I was supposed to leave. Yeah. So I'm excited to go back because last year was awesome. Ton of fun. Myrtle Beach is a great location for a LAN. But talking about another major LAN in the CRL space, ETSU announced their Tri-Cities Slam. For those that watched the Scenic City Invitational hosted by UTC last semester, same TO actually. Nutty is going to be helping run this. Thanks to ETSU seeing the work he did at the UTC event and bringing him on for this one. So prize pool of over $3,000. I think that's a number that can be going up if things fall into place. But ETSU have announced March 6th through 8th what will be one of the big third-party major LANs, as in the LANs that aren't like NECC, NACE, CECC, etc. So this could be a big one. I'm excited to see what comes of this.
I can also say, as somebody who has been to the ETSU campus multiple times, that stage in the photo, it will be packed, it will be beautiful, and it is a dream setup for a LAN. And also, it's right in the middle of the student center. ETSU does such a great job of representing what varsity sports mixed with esports should look like. They do an incredible job of representing gaming on their campus, on the culture, and also they're doing an incredible job of kind of bringing this Tennessee community of miscellaneous tournament organizers and just all these incredible people together. Like Nutty, my boy Nate, who out of kind of nowhere started TOing LANs at UTC and ran a great Rocket League event last semester, now all of a sudden finds himself running another huge event. I also brought him to Atlanta to help me out. So to Nate, I wish you nothing but the absolute best, and I hope to God that you can see me there for that event. I know that we're all trying to work some things out to get a lot of really, really incredible talent there. I hope to see you all there, because I know no one's confirmed just yet, but we will see. Also, Jay Shell, Director of Esports at ETSU, mastermind at what he does, an incredible dude. He runs a really, really tight ship, but he also runs a ship that does so many different things, from student production to graphic design to just daily news about their esports teams that they write and put up on that stage. And of course, they have really talented players. So I just want to get on my high horse about ETSU for a second. Really excited to see that program grow.
And talking major LANs, I don't think you can even have a conversation about major LANs in the spring without talking CECC. That's kind of what everything builds towards. We don't have an official national championship outside of maybe CRL in the spring, even though it's semester-based, not a full year of competition like CECC is. But CECC gets pretty darn close to being that national championship that mimics traditional sports. And so let's talk about that. I've done some discussing with Neon Star, the head TO for the Collegiate Esports Commissioners Cup, and I have put together a spreadsheet of the bids and who currently owns spots in CECC. It's being hosted in Waco this year, so that'll be a new venue for them. It was hosted in Arlington for the last 3 or 4 years since it was in Atlanta. But this is what we got. Right now, 4 bids are confirmed. Winthrop and San Diego State won the official CSMG/esports U hosted regional qualifiers. Winthrop qualified from the South in October. San Diego State qualified from the West regional qualifier in November. And the East one is coming up. Registration for that closes in 6 days. So if you are in the Eastern region, which is basically the Northeast, Midwest region, then make sure that you are signing up, because you got the East qualifier registration closing soon, and then Midwest will be afterwards. I said Midwest as part of the East qualifier, not what I meant. It's 2 different regions. Go to the Esports U Discord and sort it out for yourself. This is the best I can do for you. But Northwood's got that PCL bid, as we just talked about, and then Kennesaw State won the Peach Belt Conference in Florence, South Carolina a couple months ago. So that's what we know so far, TJ. Where should we start?
Well, I will say so far so good with the teams who are actually going to be there. First off, we will finally this semester get to see this Winthrop roster actually play on LAN.
Yes.
Winthrop and their travel budget is extremely tight. Not to mention that they had a team literally travel to Brazil for a professional Valorant event. So there's a lot going on over there. So I'm just glad the Rocket League team is able to make their way to some LANs. Hopefully more than one this year, but you know, we'll keep a close eye on that one. Also, in terms of like sleeper teams, San Diego State is going to be really, really fun to watch. And the fact that they basically get a 7-month heads up as to, hey, you're going to play in the biggest event of the year. I can only imagine what they're going to be cooking on that end. I just am also glad it's still in Texas. Like, I also misspoke. They've been in Arlington for 4 years, not 3.
Okay.
And as much as I hate them not being in Atlanta, that was way back in 2022, so I can't hate on that. But I will say Waco seems to be an incredible venue. It's not too far from where Baylor and Director Stanley is running his operations. Yep. So I really think it's going to be a special event. And I really do hope it'll be the biggest CECC ever. I'm not going to comment on some of the other issues they've had over the last few years because I don't want to speak down on the event just yet until we get more information. But in terms of the leagues, the actual like guarantees we're going to see, there's some big names that are going to come out of this. Like, I really do think that I don't remember who's playing in the Great Lakes Esports Conference right now, but they should put together what I would hope is maybe a Columbia who gets that bid if they're still playing over there.
Great Lakes is not. So the GLEC, the GLIAC, and what was Great Lakes Esports are 3 different entities. The Great Lakes Esports Conference, which if you're looking there, that is a traditional sports conference that'll likely give Indiana Tech a win. It's got the notable teams are Shawnee State, Indiana Tech, and Cleveland State, if I remember correctly. And then the GLIAC is in a similar position with just different teams. So very different from what used to be Great Lakes Esports, run by Bub and all of them. So that just for the record.
Okay. Well, I'll bite my tongue on having 2 Great Lakes leagues. I'm not going to say anything about that. I'll keep moving down the list. ECC is going to be Concord. I'm just going to go ahead and say that now. There's no such thing as any other GC3s in that league.
Whoa,
so
Southern
Concord's
New Hampshire? Come on now.
Come on. As somebody who has played in an ECC grand final, I'm not even gonna bother arguing. That is Concord by a mile, unless they just decide to throw for some god awful reason. So we're gonna get Concord in. Power Esports. It's way too early to tell right now. I hope it's Syracuse.
Should be Baylor. It should be Baylor.
Oh, true. Well, actually, I would make a potential argument that Baylor is gonna get either the. I don't know. They're not playing in NECC, are they?
Well, actually, I mean, if Baylor was looking to qualify outside of the PEC, they should go after the last chance qualifier, because what the format is, it's different seeding this year. And I wish I'd grabbed the graphic. I forgot to before the podcast, but these 8 bids are what was the 4 teams that would qualify with the regional qualifiers that would basically get a seeding group that turns into an automatic spot in bracket play in the CECC. So that's what these 8 teams right here are going to get. So they play they play a round robin to seed into the bracket. So no elimination automatically for these 8 teams. So I imagine Baylor will try to win the last chance qualifier, but that will probably be a very stacked bracket with Maryville and I guess Winthrop, and probably I assume Concord would try it as well. Just you might as well to get that position. So
there's also a Texas qual.
Yeah.
So I think Baylor's a lock.
But I mean, I don't think it's a matter of whether they're going to go or not. It's a matter of where they start in the event. But yeah, there is an official Texas qualifier, and then this wild card tournament. That is not, the format isn't set yet, but what it's going to be is an invite-only tournament given to kind of the second and third place teams from a select group of conferences. Neon Star doesn't know at the moment which conferences those are going to be. Well, she didn't tell me. I assume that means it's not quite set yet, but that'll be an invite-only tournament. Whereas the last chance qualifier will be open to people that are signing up. So just for the record. And then a couple other things that I want to point out. We've talked about PEC. That's a new bid for this year. These are all traditional sports conferences, and then SEL and NEL, which we've already mentioned, except for Collegiate Crown and Unified Collegiate. And Unified Collegiate, they help run the MAEC and the MAC, if I remember correctly. But they also have a main league. And this is a curious one for me because I'm going to pull up their website right now. The cropping might be bad, but it's really rough. And I don't know if they're going to improve this for the for this spring season, but this is what we've got with Unified. They had 5 schools competing in the fall, 7 teams, and these were their teams. You've got Harrisonburg's JV roster, Penn State Black, Simpson, St. Cloud State, Simpson B, Penn State's Pink, and Winona State. It's a little strange.
Yeah. I keep on saying it, but I think I'm going to have to bite my tongue once again. It's too early in the year for me to give my true opinion on some of this stuff. I will say that there is always at least a few questionable bids that get dished out for CECC. Like, it is the biggest conference-based event probably in collegiate esports history. So you do have to keep in mind that there is going to be some conferences that are not like the others. And again, I'm going to wait until we get deeper into the year. I want to give this group a chance to fix this website before I really start talking about stuff. So I'm just going to say that, you have to expect there's going to be a few teams that, they show up and they don't have a chance, but they're there to represent their conference. And that's what CECC is about.
Yeah, this website is rough. It's difficult to navigate through it, but you can see their collegiate services. The MEC, that's what it was, not the MAC. So they got the MAEC and the Midwest Esports Conference that they run as well. But this is the UCL. And yeah, this is, I was having a really difficult time navigating through this. I'm not a fan of the UI and their articles as well. And, benefit of the doubt. Yeah, it did say fall 2024 Oase. And then the articles as well. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but it looks very AI written. It's just like ambiguous stuff that one word, survival, must win.
Survival.
Yeah, it's cheesy, and there's a ton of ambiguous just sentences that seem like filler. I don't know. I was looking into it, and it doesn't look like a real league, but we might see them grow for the spring now that they've got a CECC bid. So that's Unified. And then the Collegiate Crown is, Neon Star told me, a women's tournament or league. I don't think details are quite set there yet. And so I'll make sure you all know once it is certain. But she told me, and I can pull up the exact quote actually, so I make sure I'm getting it correct. Because I asked her a ton of questions yesterday, and I imagine she's extremely busy. So shout out to Neon Star for even getting back to me with all the questions. But Collegiate Crown is an all-female tournament that doesn't have anything set quite yet, but that's what Collegiate Crown is.
Okay. Well, I will say if it is school-based, my money is on West Virginia. Because I really, really love the inclusion of female gamers in our scene, but I also don't see how you're going to get to run a tournament unless you let the teams be pickup teams. I think that's the only way they're going to be able to field teams for it. But so I'm just going to go ahead and say that whichever team that West Virginia and Hera picks up, That'll probably be the one to do it. But hey, with how many universities are in the nation and maybe other surrounding regions if they're included, who knows who could show up for that day? But I'm gonna just go ahead and throw a prediction out for fun. But yeah, that's actually really cool. I actually didn't know that that there was going to be a Game Changers-esque event that Oasis just mentioned. I stole that from him. That's really cool. It's gonna be really nice to see some inclusion on LAN there.
And so I'll put up one more time the CECC bids for everyone to have a look at. I got to recrop after showing off the beautiful unified websites. But yeah, those are the bids we know about right now. And we will fill this spreadsheet out and discuss it on future podcast episodes. But with about 20 minutes left in our allotted time before show matches happen later, TJ, we are starting a new special segment in partnership with DataCoach, which for those that haven't heard of DataCoach yet, this is a really, really cool machine learning Rocket League analytics tool that TJ and I have been getting kind of hands-on with what you can do with it. And I'll show you the raw data first because I am extremely nerdy about this. And actually, Pyro J just rated my channel, so I'm gonna. This is a perfect time for it actually because these are exactly the types of people that should be hearing about this. Because DataCoach partnered with Oceania RLCS for this most recent regional to present stats in an even deeper, more analytical version than what we've already been getting with Rocket League. It's a game changer, honestly. Jake, thank you for the raid, dude. Happy 2026. I hope the stream went very, very well. And I welcome in all the viewers. Welcome to the Collegiate Exclusive Podcast, talking Collegiate Rocket League. But what TJ and I wanted to start out with this partnership was breaking down the fall 2025 CRL championships with this data tool. And so let me make sure everything is cropped properly. Actually, we're going full screen for this thing because it's so much. This is for my real stats Andes out there because this is raw data right here. Boom. So this is the raw data, and the great thing about DataCoach is that you will never see this stuff unless you want to see it, which is what I wanted to see. But these are this is raw data behind the scenes. This is even more raw data when it comes to individual shots, individual goals, how they were scored, how much boost was available, where the opponents were positioned, the probability that the shot goes in, who took the shot. When it happened in the game, it's insane. And I love this stuff. I'm a huge nerd for this stuff. And I know there are people in chat that would also be huge nerds for this stuff, which is why I wanted to show the raw data. DataCoach said it'd be too overwhelming, but I wanted to show it anyway. But I mean, TJ, as a coach, I'm sure you've enjoyed the in-depth look at what we can do with Rocket League data analysis. And now we kind of get to break it down in a more simplified version. So I hope you're enjoying yourself looking at all these numbers and spreadsheet columns as I am.
Well, I will say as a coach, it is very nice to have all the raw data actually not only interpreted for you, but also interpreted in a way that can be sorted and can be clearly, like, I look at it and I can know what this term means, which means I can decipher it very quickly. And in all of our conversations with DataCoach, he has easily been one of the smartest people to even touch this side of things. And I'm very happy that they've gotten to collaborate with Oceania RLCS as well. This guy deserves it, and I can't wait to get into some of these stats.
So this is who DataCoach is, just to start off with, and like I said, that complicated, deep numbers look at the fall championships is not really what you're getting. What you are getting is tangible analytics and breakdowns and play styles. So if you're interested in checking them out right now, datacoach.gg is where you should start because the website is fantastic. But I want to show off the numbers from the fall fall championships. And so we're going to cherry pick a couple of specific stats from the fall championships to show overall performance from the 4 teams. And TJ, I think we're seeing the product of maybe why Northwood came in 4th. They started off the night with that Game 7 loss to Winthrop, and then ended up losing to Concord to go out in 4th place after going in as kind of favorites. But look at those numbers. So you got goals per game. That's what Northwood actually did on the pitch. 1.3 goals per game. And then underneath that, the XG per game, that's expected goals per game. And so DataCoach takes all of the opportunities to score that Northwood and everyone else here had in the fall championships and sums the probability that those opportunities to score go in. And so you can see Northwood kind of hitting well underneath their expected goals per game. They should have been converting a little bit more, as some of these higher probability chances went by the wayside. And you can see their numbers, TJ. It's pretty stark compared to the rest of the field.
Yeah, what I will say is watching that game up close and really trying to decipher, like, as a coach, like what I was looking at in my replay reviews with all these, with my guys at Concord, like I really hate to be the one, because it's going to sound like, oh, I told you so, but I really do think that there has been nothing dynamic or special about the way that Northwood attack teams, except for the fact that they have been absurdly consistent. And I think these stats go to show that Northwood, whenever they're not that extreme level of consistency and that conversion rate, they fall down to 4. They also fell down to 4th in the entire event. So I just want to kind of add that as to how me as a coach looks at these DataCoach stats and kind of can help draw the comparisons. But I mean, I think it was apparent watching the replays that I really didn't think Northwood had it on the back half of last semester.
And look at this like simplified table that DataCoach provided as well. If you look at these attack numbers, I mean, all of Northwood, this is your expected goals per game, or expected goals rather here. I think across the entire tournament, and it's pretty well below the rest of the field, even against teams that have comparable amounts of games played. Like up here, you got 15 matches played, and Ardrew, CMOS, and Crispy are doubling what Hockey, Creams, and Zanil were able to create for Northwood. And when you don't have Zanil with high quality chances and converting on those high quality chances, then Northwood's offense definitely did struggle, and we see that in the numbers here. But on the flip side, you can see why St. Clair ended up beating out a stacked fall championship field, even outperforming their expected goals per game here, converting on 106%. Their conversion percentage was 106%. And that they're the only team that actually went above their expected goals per game. So they were scoring some low-quality opportunities. I mean, with how creative and explosive Zai and Arju were at the forefront of that attack, I mean, I think that makes a whole lot of sense, even against this stacked field.
Yeah, I mean, they were absolutely on another level that event. I mean, and both watching them play, like if you go back and watch those games, like we did not play anywhere near our best or even our half best when we saw them. But I do think that the performance they had against us, that really talented sweep they got, it was kind of a tell us what was to come for the rest of the event. St. Clair has really had everybody's numbers outside of Concord's for a select amount of time. So once they got anybody other than Concord in that grand final, I think it was already done and dusted. And even if they did get Concord in that final, the numbers that all of the players put up individually, it really wasn't even close. And these guys were on a whole new level of what you would expect them to score, like that expected goals per game. It's a little misleading that they share it with most of the other teams, because when you compare the players' expected goals, that's where I think that things get really out of hand.
And these are the defensive numbers that I just put up right here. St. Clair is still at the top, and the amount that their defense limited the opportunities of everybody else as well. I mean, how cohesive a trio that St. Clair became at the very end, unfortunately, of this trio's lifespan. I mean, 1.3 goals per game when they're allowing the same sort of quality opportunities as the rest of the field. At that 71% conversion percentage for opposing offenses is it kind of pales in comparison to the 126 on the other side of the table with Concord, which they gave up up a lot that I guess they shouldn't have been. And you see that broken down across the 3 series that Concord played and the 3 that St. Clair played as well, with Northwood and Winthrop right in the middle. But defensively, you can see a pretty serious difference between Winthrop and St. Clair, who on that day did obviously look like the best teams in the field, versus Northwood and Concord, who struggled a little bit.
I mean, I'm trying to really figure out kind of what more I want to add, but I'm just staring at the raw data, and it is a lot to look at. But also, I will say, from kind of the hands-on perspective from the Concord side of things, I do think that the St. Clair sweep had a big factor in making the stats appear the way they did. But also, I'm not too surprised to see us down there with Northwood. It was a tough weekend for both of us, to say the least. Yeah. I think the biggest kind of shock was with Winthrop. Even though their stats were pretty high compared to St. Clair's, like, they still put up a fight, and they were really, really one game away, and very close in that game, I should add, to forcing a bracket reset. Yep. So I also want to give Winthrop some credit, but also this is the stats I think we're going to see from this point on in this kind of breakdown segment, is that St. Clair were a league above.
And I'll put the explainers on the screen as well for my visual learners. But this is the explanation for expected goals. That's kind of the I think most key metric when you're looking at a lot of what DataCoach breaks down on kind of a more macro scale. DataCoach dives into kind of play styles and on an individual level as well, their tendencies and how to exploit the tendencies of other players just by looking at replays. Like, this is how we've been getting this data. Me or TJ will send DataCoach replays. He'll get back to us sometimes on the day, sometimes the next day on with that raw data. And so this is what expected goals are. And then we'll show the example slide as well, because DataCoach provided these beautiful graphics that kind of exceeds what we normally have on this podcast. And so I really want to use them. But that's the breakdown of expected goals per game, and so that's kind of what we are focusing on with these stats. But I want to put the big spreadsheets back on the screen one more time, because there are other key pieces of data that I want to bring up, because I think Percy's performance is one we should talk about, TJ, because for Winthrop, Percy was a serious game changer. Played a lot more games than the rest of the field, but put up 21 goals. The second highest was Jazzy with 14. And look at this expected goals for Percy. Like, he's first of all hitting over the 18.66 he was expected to get, and not everyone did that by nearly a 2.5 goal margin. But I mean, he's also creating. Oh, the demos aren't on here, but he actually had the most demos in the field as well, I remember, from when I was looking at this. And so for Percy, I mean, tons of shots levied on. And for him, I mean, there's a reason why Winthrop did look so threatening.
Yeah, I mean, I would also, like, you made the point of, yes, they did play more games, but I will make the argument that even though they did play more games, the fact that Percy was still so consistent as a player, I really am speechless looking at some of these results. Like, he was incredible, and again, Winthrop was so close to going the distance with St. Clair. But when you talk about players who were dominant over the weekend, normally you can make your MVP for St. Clair. If you want to say it's Arju, that's totally fine, but Percy's got to be in the conversation and deserves it.
And final point I want to talk about with the DataCoach segment. We'll be doing a lot more of these throughout the semester, everyone. So if you ever do have replays that you'd want analyzed like this, definitely reach out to me, and I'll see if it's something we want to discuss on the podcast, because DataCoach has very kindly agreed to do this partnership with us so we can have some cool content to talk about on stream. But last point I want to make is I wanted to pull the numbers from the fall championships for the players that need to be replaced by their respective schools. That's Arju and Zanil, and Arju was I think MVP. Percy could contest, and statistically, CMOS and Crispy are always near the top of the table, but I think RG was definitely the MVP, especially when it came to expected goals per game. He's just a chance creator for St. Clair, and the fact that they're losing him, that shows you a lot, TJ, of what Vesh is going to have to do, or maybe Jazzy and Zai fill more of Arju's roles going into the spring. But losing Arju was a key piece because this is how he's performing in the clutch against the best teams in CRL.
Well, and the conversation also goes in the direction that is what Maryville is getting. They are getting what I believe is undoubtedly the MVP of that championship. And he plays like a top-level player. And even in RLCS, you see it. Yep. It's no different in CRL. And for Zanil, it's a very similar conversation. Somebody who for years has been a top talent in North America. And even though that the stats look so different and don't look too comparable from this side, like Zanil is still putting pressure on. He's still averaging almost 3 shots. Like he's not far behind Arju in terms of major stats. It's just that slight efficiency notes here and there that change things statistically. But in terms of what can Northwood do to replace Zanil, I don't know if Drewy can put up this type of performance against this type of competition, but this is why we wanted to throw up these stats, because this is this is how big the shoes are, is what I'm trying to say.
And I feel a little bad because these numbers from Zanil, he had a bad fall championships, and so this doesn't really accomplish what I kind of wanted it to when talking about the Zanil move and what Drewy might have to replace, because I don't think these numbers are befitting of what we know Zanil can do and what he did for Northwood in a lot of events outside of these fall championships. And so I think he had a rough performance, and it shows here. But that also tells you kind of why Northwood was so flat, because Zanil had a bad championship, and he is the tip of the spear for that Northwood team, or was. And so if he's not performing with numbers comparable to what he's normally doing, then that's the sort of championship they have. But final thing I want to say, Pyro, I see your question. Expected goals doesn't take into account the defensive ranking, because defensive or expected goals are calculated on an individual opportunity basis. And so like I'll put up the numbers again because I freaking love this. But these are all of the opportunities in every single replay here. So it shows you how much time was on the game clock, which players taken the opportunity, whether it's a ground shot, air dribble, aerial shot, hook shot as well as a stat that's tracked. And so on an individual basis, that's how it calculates the expected goals. So there you go. That's our partnership with DataCoach. I'm really excited to develop this as the semester goes on, TJ.
And we've been waiting to get this in an episode for what feels like forever as well. So we're very, very lucky to have him not only helping us, but working in our community. Seriously, should make sure you go check out DataCoach. I don't have his social link. You have to help me out here. I forget what his ad is.
So datacoach.gg is the website, and on Twitter it's at RL DataCoach. So definitely give him a follow. He works with guys like Cronovi, I know he's working with, Oceania RLCS he's working with, and he's been telling us about his trips to different schools. And so that's really what this partnership is about. So if you're a player or a coach at a college or university that actually is serious about improvement, and you want the numbers behind improvement, and what you can do to improve as a player and a team and a program as well, if you've got multiple teams, then RL DataCoach is doing something that nobody else is in the scene right now. Like Lander's borrow tool, the stats that you get from that, I think is what we had prior to DataCoach, but this goes so much deeper than what Lander's doing. So definitely check him out. Tell him that Collegiate Exclusive sent you, because you should be at least having a call with this guy to talk through things with him. But we got kind of 5 minutes, TJ, to wrap up.
We can speed.
Okay. I mean, we only have the really one more segment, because the Scholastic Minute we can talk about in the next episode. But right now, we don't know where CRL is. We've got wanted posters, missing posters up all over the United States and Canada and Mexico right now. But we have heard nothing about it. And this has happened before, which I think is why so many of us are nervous about where CRL is, because remember 2 years ago, this is what happened, where we heard nothing about it, and then it was summer. And then it didn't come back until the fall semester afterward. And so I know not hearing anything is a bad thing, But I mean, TJ, if we don't get CRL this semester, what does that change in your eyes?
Well, I will say that the last time that we lost CRL, it was a really big testament to what this community can do and what we are willing to do to keep this game and keep this community alive. And everybody passed with flying colors. The only thing that I think will change my perspective without CRL is if Blast or Epic or Cyan, whoever you want to blame, if they let this happen again, there needs to be an extremely serious conversation about how serious that we are taking CRL, because there's two ways to view it. One is that they are the only developer-backed league, which means no matter what, we need to play by their rules. But what I want to do is provide an alternate viewpoint, is we should have a larger voice as college students, as college directors, as college coaches, and I don't see enough people talking about this. This is one of the only esports and one of the only college esports and one of the only sports that has a question mark at the line of, hey, your biggest league will cease to exist with no updates and no warnings. That is ridiculous. And the standards within collegiate esports have gotten too good over decades and decades and decades of work for us to just kind of let things fade and not have some sort of outcry or outrage towards it. So I have a call to action. And for anybody who has worked on CRL, who used to work for CRL, who is currently working for CRL, and then for everybody who's involved in what actually is CRL, and that's the Collegiate Rocket League scene, I call on you guys to be heard. I call on you guys to actually make sure you wake up and do something about this if you actually care about this game and care about this scene. That's how things would change for me if we get no CRL once again.
CCA Discord, Twitter, these are good channels for making your voice known. Tag RL Esports, tag College Carball, and make sure that they know that this is pretty unacceptable, because directors have to plan their semesters, and we can't have 2 weeks notice. We can't have January 3rd CRL opens where players' scholarships are actually on the line in some of these cases. And I think that's a good place to leave the podcast off. I know we did some preseason rankings, but they're just preseason rankings. We'll have some more tangible data to put together some okay rankings next week. But that does do it for the first Collegiate Exclusive Podcast of 2026. We're calling this Season 2 of the CEP now. So we're into Season 2, into CRL Spring. It feels good to be back. I'm happy to be back here everywhere except for the official publisher-backed CRL. But we've got so many quality LANs, so many quality tournaments, quality leagues that's the real CRL. And if there's a publisher-backed league, great. If not, then we'll live. We are resilient enough a community in the Rocket League space where we will live and we will still have a lot of fun. But I feel like that's a good place to end it now. All of you, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for show matches. We have Akron Gold playing against Syracuse up next on stream. I believe. I'm going to have to confirm that in the break. I'll say it in chat if it's not the case, but it's my own schedule. I forgot about it, but it's coming up next. TJ, thanks for being in here with me as always. And everyone, stay tuned for show matches coming up in a bit. We'll be right back.